What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for your patience. All Access Live with Kevin Rankin here. It's a gorgeous Tuesday evening, and we just had some connectivity issues, but you know what? Like the rock and roll business, man, you just punt and roll with it. Before I get started, I want to just ask you that if you came here from any place other than YouTube, do me a favor. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. The link that you see down below is actually Carl's Solovox, my next guest link. If you go here, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like this video. You can share it with everybody. And you can also become a member, which allows you access to certain episodes that are only privy to those that have become members. I've got prize packages available and everything that you see. Just dig deep into the YouTube channel and you'll find some goods. Lots and lots of episodes, over 320 thus far. So my next guest I've known for almost 15 years. We played our first gig together at a really, really cool show that we'll talk a little bit about. But he's got a fantastic upcoming gig that I wanted to share with the rest of the world. If you're anywhere in the vicinity of Eugene, Oregon, we've got a really fun surprise for you. Even if you're not, maybe we can take this thing on the road. So with no further ado, let me get him all the way from his studio in Portland, Carl Tietze, otherwise known as Solovox.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going, man?
Did I pronounce your last name right? I just, I realized.
You actually did.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you actually get a Podcaster of the Year award for that.
Nice, man. Yeah, well, just like we were saying when we were setting this thing up, man, sometimes like technology can be the bane of our existence, right? So just
the delay was totally on my end, folks. Technological issues, which normally don't get me, but they got me that time.
You know what, man? Well, you didn't stress. We just found another option. So thanks for punting and making this work. I was just teasing the first gig that we did together. Do you remember the first time that you and I met?
Would that have been a Chaosmosis show, perhaps at the Wonder Ballroom?
That was it. Yeah, the grand opening of the Wonder Ballroom, doing the
grand opening of the Wonder Ballroom. That's right, with the Dahu chorus.
That's right.
An entire lineup of these really easy songs to play by Queen. Oh, that's right. No, they were the most impossible songs to play.
It was insane, man. And we had, it was like an 18-piece band, right? Or it was an 8-piece band and 18-piece choir. That's what it was.
Basically, yeah. It was the early version of what became the Nowhere Band. And you don't realize what a great piano player Freddie Mercury is until you start to learn how to play, Bicycle Race and Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff. And that was 20 years ago.
That's 20. Oh my
19, God. Maybe 18, 2006. Yeah.
That's nuts. I see you over in the chat, Caleb, all the way from Phuket, Thailand. Thank you for being here, buddy. My son's across the planet, but he likes to tune into these channels and share the goods with those overseas. So that gig in particular, that was, you and I had not met. So the first time that we actually got into a musical environment, you were kind of music director on that gig, right? And you had John Averill was.
Don't tell John Averill that.
No, he was at the helm, right? So that was a John Averill production. But haven't heard that many cats was sort of a multifaceted deal. And the thing that I loved about it was getting to. There were a bunch of guys that I'd never met before. I think Chet Leister was on guitar and.
Arthur on bass.
Arthur Parker. Oh, yes.
On drums. Oh no, you on drums.
I was on drums. That's right. Yeah, I was actually subbing for Ryan. Ryan couldn't do it.
Right.
But that led to playing that Billionaire's Birthday Party with Smash Mouth at the Portland Art Museum.
Oh, that's right.
That's it. Yeah, man. We had some good times. That was crazy.
That's right.
You remember like the singer Steve, rest his soul, man, the guy that just passed away, didn't make it through the gig. I think he did a few songs right before he actually just they ended up kind of bailing out, and he'd had a lot of drinks before we played. I think we all did actually at that point, but Steve didn't make it through the gig. So.
I have a great photo of me handing 2 little mini hamburgers to 2 lovely ladies after that show. So maybe I don't remember what happened after we played, but we did have a killer lineup we were at the Portland Art Museum, a lot of rich people. And we John and us just came up with a hit lineup of like, great classic rock songs. We did some Cars and that kind of stuff. And I guess I don't even remember what happened after we played.
Well, I mean, that was part of the magic of those gigs. But what that did was kind of pave the way for kind of what you've been doing, right? I mean, there are several ensembles. You talked about the Nowhere Band, which you do in a show at Alberta Rose Theater every year, a tribute to the Beatles, right? So I think you did the White Album this last year. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I've had kind of a dual thing. There's the band side, and then there's the Solovox thing.
Right.
So when I was in all through the 90s, I was in Athens, Georgia, and I was playing with bands. And we can talk about my deep, dark history, if you want. But when I came to Portland, I did start kind of, fiddle around with bands here or there. Nothing really stuck. And then Dan Reed opened up the Ohm nightclub,
right,
and brought electronic music to Portland. And I had been doing, one-man band synthesizer based music from when I was in high school.
Okay.
And hadn't touched that world since I was a teenager. And then all of a sudden I see folks like Keith Schreiner, Auditory Sculpture, half of Dahlia. He's up there with his keyboards doing his one-man thing. And I'm like, oh, I guess the world has caught up to me. And so I decided to hop into that world, and I started Solovox in 2001. But I had known John Averill, starting in 98. And that's when John started to kind of create these one-off shows like the Wonder Ballroom show. And that was all under the moniker of Chaosmosis. And we can definitely talk all about that if you want. But we were never the same band twice. We were never called the same thing twice. It's like, okay, now we're going to do a Cars Cheap Trick show. Right. Now we're going to do a whole bug themed show, or this is a Mardi Gras show, where we're never even the same band, but it's the same members. And it wasn't until we did the White Album Christmas on the 40th anniversary of the White Album in 2008 that we did something that people demanded we do again. And brother, let me tell you, be careful what you do twice.
Yeah.
You can do anything once, but once you do something twice, here we are getting ready to celebrate our 17th annual White Album Christmas.
Wow.
And so I've got the band side and some of the other projects I've been doing, and had a Solovox show just 2 weeks ago. So that's now been going for 23 years.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
The White Album production, again, I mean, you've got a lot of moving parts. It's tough enough when you're doing a tribute to the Beatles, but your ensemble is bigger than just four guys. You've got a full production. It's a theater production that you guys do, right? So
yeah,
that's part of the challenge, is to make sure that you sort of one up yourself every year and provide something that people may not have seen the year before.
It's easy for us because we play the same damn album every year.
Okay.
Throw in some new encores, but we are Portland's Fab 17.
Nice.
So you've got the core, like 8 of us. So that's percussion, drums, 2 guitars, 3 singers, keyboards, yada yada, 3 string players, 5 horn players.
Wow.
And we draw a line right down the middle of the Alberta Rose Theater stage, and they get very specific, exactly down the middle. And half the stage is the band, and the other half is aerialists, acrobats, people juggling knives, sometimes I've been terrified in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Afraid you're gonna.
sometimes they don't warn us what the act is going to be. I've got plenty of funny stories along that line. Yeah.
So so there's the Nowhere Band doing the White Album, and I know that you actually just this last weekend you did an incredible Fleetwood Mac tribute, right? I had friends that were there. They said to give you props and that it was a fantastic show. So Julie Jocham said to give a shout out for that one.
Cool.
Is that the same ensemble of sort of core band members, or this is a completely different thing?
Not at all.
Okay.
So Acoustic Minds, who I know from Oregon Country Fair.
Okay.
I kind of, I was kind of the Trojan horse at Oregon Country Fair in 2009. I was the first electronic act ever booked at Oregon Country Fair.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've played there every year since, because I'm live. I'm playing keyboards live, and they're like, well, he's not quite a DJ. And of course, fair's changed a lot. We can definitely talk about that. But Acoustic Minds, Jenny and Amanda Price, amazing singers. They are kind of a mix of electronic and acoustic. And so they were kind of able to now come into fair. And so we would just kind of see each other crossing, they're going on before me or after me or whatever. And then they came to town with Glitter Fox doing a Fleetwood Mac tribute about a year ago. And they didn't have a keyboard player for that show. And I'm like, do you need any help?
Yeah, you got to have a keyboardist in that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've done it now. I think this is like their 5th or 6th year. They do this Fleetwood Mac tribute. And kind of a new band, some of the older members that they've had, and then some new people like Blake Johnston, who was just in another Fleetwood Mac band that is now kind of, hanging it up. And so this guy, he already kind of looks like Lindsey Buckingham. Oh, nice. He brought a lot of the deep knowledge of the music. And yeah, they just hit me up, a couple months ago and saying, hey, we're doing a 3-night run and at the Alberta Rose Theater. And I mean, we're talking 30 songs, the longest list of guest singers. You would have had to have gone to all 3 nights to have seen everything.
It was mixed up each night. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one night I'm playing Songbird with Haley Johnston, singing.
Amazing.
The next night I'm not on that, and they have a trio that's coming in just for that one night to sing that song.
Wow.
Totally mixed. And then some nights a different singer is singing a different song. And it was the most firepower vocal performances we're talking, this was like American Idol stuff.
Wow, that's cool.
I mean, I could not believe that Portland had that much vocal firepower, because, that's the thing about whether it's Nowhere Band or Solovox or, each one person can only see one part of the whole picture.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a club owner or you're like, totally on it. What it showed to me is that there can be entire other communities coexisting that you just never run across, because if you're playing the gig, you're at home or whatever. And I was very, very happy to see that Portland is just swimming with some amazing vocalists that I will now be poaching.
Yeah, right, man. Well, a lot of the music scene has changed a lot between, I would say, the late 90s to early 2000s. Then you had this COVID era, and I know some people hung it up, some people they departed, but a lot of people, there's an influx of a lot of musicians and artists that have come into Portland in the last 4 or 5 years that I was not hip to at all. It's amazing to go out and see all these new people and think I was transported into a different city. Portland, and you mentioned the community part of it. I love that people are willing to sort of cross pollinate that way instead of being sort of cagey and cliquish, and trying to keep sort of a distance from some of these other talented artists. But Nowhere Band, well, even and prior to that, the Dahu chorus that you talked about, that 8-piece ensemble, but 18 members of this choir. Um, it was funny. Like I was thinking, where did this band of misfits come from? I knew John had assembled all these people. I think he had, what was the drum line? Lions Batucada, right? Was a big,
Oh yeah.
a bunch of those guys sort of showed up as part of this thing too. And um, people
Well, John,
outside. Oh, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
well, yeah, well, a lot of that is because there was a John is an amazing magnet for talent.
Yeah.
He knows how to bring people together to something. I mean, he's the creator and still band leader of March 4th Marching Band.
That's right.
A 25-person band that he's not really sure how many people have been in the band, but it's like close to like 300 people.
God, that's nuts, man.
Over 20 years have been in the band. So so he obviously knows how to do it. The Dahu chorus, that's just a lot of our friends, and our community was forged at Burning Man.
I was going to ask, because it seems like it's a local Burning Man. That's what it really reminds me.
Our camp went from 5 people in 1998 to 500 people in 2003. That is because that's a whole other story. But we were the first real Portland Burning Man mega theme camp. I could name drop a lot of bands and artists that came out of our camp, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so we were already kind of a family. The fact that we then just got on stage and produced these shows was just a byproduct of that.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
That community. I mean, you mentioned that camp. You just reminded me that was sort of a pivotal member of that ensemble. That original core band was Dave Camp, amazing guitarist, incredible artist, and unfortunately, untimely passing. It lost him to cancer.
That's his classical.
No kidding. Wow.
And this is his Telly.
Telly?
Right?
Wow. Amazing. That's great that you've got those, brother.
Yeah, but this is my guitar.
Bring that sucker up here, man. Don't put that back on the stand. We gotta see this. Look at that thing. Oh my God.
That's the new one.
How in the hell does how does that flock of seagulls not have a guitar like that?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm gonna have to talk to Igor at Roland, man. We're gonna have to get are you actually playing that live at Solovox shows?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I can't really. I mean, you know what? I'll try to call it up real fast. But last weekend, I was playing, I think, my 13th or 12th or 13th year at a fire gathering of some of the best fire performers on the West Coast. And I play music for them. And, there's probably, 300 people out there spinning fire. And I don't know if I'll be able to call it up, but 2 weekends ago, I was playing the guitar in the middle of a fire circle while some of the jugglers from the White Album Christmas were juggling fire over my head.
Oh my God.
Awesome. And I've got about a 200-foot wireless MIDI range on that. So I'm playing synths and just rocking out while
Oh,
I have Ableton running. I can even uh, go down to the next scene of Ableton with one of the buttons and trigger the next scene. So I could technically just play wirelessly all I want with the guitar, and I just stay still,
yeah.
and I just feel, fire
That
flying
is
over my
way,
head.
yeah. I'm sure there's some YouTube of that.
Yeah, I'll try to call it up here, but
What, you know what
you
I'll do? I'll
talk
make
about
sure that
Dave
we have
Camp.
links.
I totally got off on a guitar.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an important part, like with Flock, people are always asking about the guitar because Mike, our singer, is known for, you know, kind of one thing with his aesthetic, with his hair, but he also, he's got the one finger, keyboard, so, solos. And I think with the guitar might allow him a little more flexibility on stage, so this is now we've seen the studio and this is your Instagram channel.
Yes.
All right. Look at
So,
that. Oh my God, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. Look at you.
oh, and you know what? That's what's great. That I think that was last year's.
It's a good thing you don't have a lot of hair product in, buddy.
Dude,
I
that's why I keep it short.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'll have to keep an eye. Make sure I think of that before I get involved in more fire activities on stage. We did have some at that show, the Wonder Ballroom thing. I remember that was their kickoff. They had people on stilts
Yeah,
and aerialists and
you could still get away with fire performances back then. But
yeah.
yeah, I feel terrible for Dave Camp. Just real brief, because I distracted you with the guitar. Yes, Dave Camp was a key part of our camp back in the day, and a key part of what became the Nowhere Band. And we lost him, in 2015. And he was, he was one of the creators of Stereo Vision. I was just thinking about that album the other day. What
So
an
full of pop
amazing
hits, man.
singer,
Yeah.
songwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a Dave Camp tribute show. I'm glad you brought up Stereo Vision. That record was so good, so full of great tunes.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so okay, so back so you mentioned the Fleetwood Mac show that you just got done with, and the whole impetus for me reaching out and talking about the next level. You posted this, right? Yes, I love this, man. We've got you're playing with the Floydian Slips, which the last show I saw was at Revolution Hall last year.
Oh, you were
Incredible.
there.
I was there, absolutely, man. Incredible show, and I I've known Ned Failing for a long time. I know Nicole Campbell. I've known Nicole for a long time. But that was the first time I saw you in that regard, and you had so much production going on at that point in an indoor venue. Now, taking that to the next level is kind of what we were going to chat about today. So, tell me
Yeah.
about the concept of the quadrophonic sound. Where did you even decide that this was the next thing you wanted to do with Floydian Slips?
I don't know how I just always assumed that you had to do Pink Floyd and quadrophonic sound, because when
Yeah.
I saw Pink Floyd in 1994, that was the whole thing. The sound of the plane is moving around, and the cash registers are, and it's one of the first questions I asked at my first gig. I was like, so I'm assuming we're doing quadrophonic sound. It's like, no, man, that's not a thing, at the McDonald Theater or Revolution Hall. And and part of it is that in Ableton, which is how I'm running the whole show, I mean, it's just so simple. I mean, it's just, I have a plugin that can automate all this stuff, and I can have live control over it. And I just kind of threw it out there, and I'm so grateful for our team that are just like, okay, they were sending text messages back and forth today, like, here's what's going to take. They're going to have to build 2 other towers of speakers at the Cuthbert Amphitheater this Saturday.
Yeah.
But we're doing the entire Dark Side of the Moon album, the entire Wish You Were Here album,
Wow.
plus a bunch of other great stuff. And I'm already, as you can tell from the show in April, I've been wanting to be a part of a Pink Floyd band my whole life. And that's one of the areas that John Averill and me and that group never really got to get into, because we were always kind of doing more of the Beatle thing and more, Queen and more vocal based stuff.
Sure.
And so when I got this opportunity through Ned, because we're in another band together called Judy Blue Eyes, which is a Crosby, Stills and Nash thing.
Nice.
I just went nuts, and I think I worked on it for about 6 months, just researching and yeah, people say that's a mini Moog, but I think it might actually be this,
Yeah.
and
You get to full
so now
geek on it.
I've got it all, it's all, set up in Ableton, and I still have some work to do, but like the big Shine On You Crazy Diamond chord at the beginning, I'm going to be able to spread that to all 4 speakers.
Wow.
So you're going to be in the middle of that chord. And then
I don't mean to interrupt you really quick. One sec. I'm just going to tell you, folks, if you're watching this and you don't know some of the terminology. So Ableton is the software tool that Carl uses from his keyboard. This goes out to the software tool that actually dictates what sound or what target you're going to be playing, right? So not only are you triggering like a sound to get maybe some of these old Moog sounds of the synthesizers, but you can actually dictate what it does. It can control other activities, or it can control different functions. And so, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to maybe let people know, if they're not musicians and they don't know what Ableton's all about, it's a really complex it's a very intelligent tool, right? That you can do a lot of really cool, complex things with.
I hopped on Ableton Live right from the get-go, 2002. Ended up teaching it for several years.
Really? Okay.
And it's just a piece of software that, unlike every other piece of software, is linear, where it's like, you hit the space bar and this happens and then that happens and then that happens, beginning, middle, end. Ableton can do that, but then it's also a non-linear thing. So I just want this drum loop to play, and you hit it and it's just going to play. And then if you hit something else, that's going to play together. And so you can conduct different bits of the music. With the Floydian Slips, I can hit one button on my keyboard and all the sounds for that next song are ready to go. And I'm also triggering all of this. There's a lot of sound effects in Pink Floyd. So whether it's, like I said, the helicopter from, The Wall, or the clocks from Dark Side of the Moon, I'm triggering all that. And with the quadrophonic sound, I'm going to be able to direct it behind people's head. Wow. Maybe it's flying around. I'm still kind of working with some of my gear to maybe have foot pedal control, so that while I'm playing a solo, I'm going to be able to kind of whiz it around the Cuthbert. So no, it's nerd Maximus.
That is so fun. Did you actually get the samples from those Pink Floyd tunes, or did you have to recreate a lot of these sounds?
Excellent question. 90% of it I have created from scratch.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And I'm most proud of the Shine On You Crazy Diamond bit, because it's very difficult to tell what's me and not, but there was something missing. I got the I mean, I spent weeks just getting this deep, you know, drone and the strings and everything, but there was something missing. And Kevin, the craziest thing is, I don't know if it's AI or just better software, but just in the past 9 months, there has been an explosion on YouTube of the stems, for those who don't know, that would be the individual elements taken from a multi-track of a recording. And I did some searching, and there was something missing, and I was able to find the stem of Pink Floyd in the studio, you know, licking their fingers and rubbing wine glasses.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And that's what gives Shine On You Crazy Diamond that extra little shimmer. And once I threw that onto my, you know, synth sound, you really can't tell the difference between the studio and
Wow.
but all the lead sounds, anything that I'm playing live is completely something that I've programmed. And man, you know, it's just, you know, I've been programming since, and the software power is so amazing now. And what they have been able to do with replicating vintage synth sound in software is so accurate. I mean, you know, I know there's a lot of other keyboard players out there that just use keyboards and just use the built-in sounds to
Mhm.
kind of approximate it. I cannot do that.
Yeah, that's for those of you maybe that are catching this late. I just put the information here. So, Floydian Slips, incredible Pink Floyd tribute. It's not just a standard tribute. This is a full theater production. Saturday, September 21st, at the Cuthbert Amphitheater in Eugene, Oregon. Shows at 7 o'clock. And gates are at 5:30. There's if you just go to thecuthbert.com, you can get tickets right there. I would imagine they're going to sell out before the showtime, so jump on there and get them soon. One of the things you did, Carl, you talked. There was a great video where you showed a real preview of how you were programming, the sounds to do the quadrophonic sort of surround sound system. I didn't realize that was an inherent thing within Ableton Live. I didn't realize that you could actually sort of dictate how you wanted sounds to um, project. But have you done some? How do you try something like this out without having stacks of speakers ahead of time? Is it just virtual or?
It's a very good question. I'm I actually need to give Rich, one of our drummers, a call. He's here in Eugene. I actually need to go and grab a couple. He has a couple of extra pair of studio speakers for me to kind of go with these two.
Okay.
So I can get them set up. I'm, so far I'm trusting that it's working. I have a circle. I can see the four. I'm sure it's going to work just fine. One of our biggest challenges, though, is that when you're dealing with sizes like this, is that there is going to be some delay. I mean, we're talking about like 125, 150 feet
Yeah.
of space between. So I'm focusing on more sound effects, nothing too rhythmic. um and but I'm going pretty deep on some of this. Some of the anything that is needs to be timed exactly, like for example the echoes of us and them, us, us. I'm kind of pre-working on that so that Paul can sing live, but the echoes are going to be timed.
That's cool.
I have all kinds of little transition moments. If we're playing to a click, I'm also in charge of the click. And I have, my new toy here. I had a previous video where I showed off the expressive E. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see the video
No.
about this new keyboard? Can I show you this real fast?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Let's turn it up. So I'm going to turn this around here. Okay, I don't know if you can here. Let's do this another way. I'm going to take it out of the doohickey here real fast. Okay. So this, can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. So it is it's a keyboard. That has complete control both up and down for opening up a filter or volume, but also pitch.
That's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty much one of a kind. Let me get a different sound here.
Unbelievable. What is that keyboard?
It is made by a company called Osmos.
Okay.
They are in France, I believe. The name of the model is the Expressive E. And what has happened is that way back in the day, well, even today, on most keyboards, there's something called aftertouch, where you press the key down, and then on nicer keyboards, there's an extra little bit you can press to give it, you know, whatever effect you want. But that triggers that sound, that effect across the whole board. Way back in the day, there was polyphonic aftertouch, which meant as you played a chord, I only want that note to be brighter.
Okay.
Or I want that note to be louder. And it was specific for each key. Well, I guess manufacturers thought that was too exotic, and they haven't been doing it for the past 30 years.
Okay.
And finally, musicians have been up in arms about it. And so there's this new thing called MPE, which is multi-polyphonic expression. The point is, this company, Osmos, is really kind of at the forefront of bringing that technology back. And that means for a lot of the lead sounds that I'm playing with the Floydian Slips, I just have amazing control over the character, because it's not just about how hard you hit. I can slowly ease into a note. They let me take a solo on Another Brick in the Wall, and my left hand is full playing chords over here, and with the Osmos, I'm able to solo and hit those pitch bends without having to hit the traditional pitch.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is just one of the greatest, most it's
a game changer.
called the Expressive E.
Yeah.
It is just an amazing synth, and a lot more software is becoming available for MPE enabled synths. So, yeah.
I remember seeing Jordan Rudess show something similar at NAMM probably 10 years ago, but the keys weren't isolated. It was like black keyboard, that had the keys were just essentially like sort of depressions, within the.
That was the first. That
Okay.
was the Rolly Seaboard.
Okay.
And everyone was like, "Oh, you gotta check it out! You gotta check it out!" And it was, if you thought it looked weird, you should have tried to play one.
I'm sure, yeah. Without it, I mean, if your fingers are used to playing keys, yeah.
Yeah, that they have finally figured it out with the Osmos.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's it takes some getting used to, and thankfully you can adjust the sensitivity, because man, when you're trying to play, some of these, kind of, it's very easy to sound like a drunken pedal steel player. So yeah.
It's yeah, that's beautiful though. It's fantastic. Scott Kramer, I see you there saying he's enjoying this here in the chat. I apologize to you guys if you're out there on Instagram. I'm missing your comments. Sometimes those feeds don't come through, but the folks that are maybe not going to see this event at the Cuthbert, do you plan on sort of continuing and doing Floydian in that kind of capacity? Maybe doing a Revolution Hall show the next time with quadrophonic sound, bring in extra speakers and see if Ned can put something up there for you.
I want to do octophonic. I want to have, or dodecaphonic. No, it's really not up to me. I think that's the best for the peace of everyone. Let's see how this one goes.
Yeah, right.
You
might decide that like that amount of headache makes you never want to do it again,
Thankfully, I'm not the one who has to haul the speakers.
Yeah, right.
It might be kind of cursing me a little bit, but the Slips only typically play, once a year.
Right.
So the fact that, these shows in April were my first shows with the band, and they were so well received that the Cuthbert asked us to come and do this.
That's cool.
And that's when I was like, well, unless we can rent an actual helicopter to pack people, then we should do something special. And the inflatable pig is really expensive.
Right. Yeah. But I have to tell you, were you hip? Actually, were you able to get down to the Sphere when U2 was doing their residency there in Vegas? Okay. Well, I went Valentine's Day, and that experience, a great friend of mine is one of the experience directors there. So he kind of gave me behind the scenes, which was fantastic. Got to go in and see some of the production and see the room from a different perspective. But one of the most fascinating things to me, and what I realize, is that this is going to be a different experience for live music going forward for big venues. They're already constructing a few other spheres right around the world, and it's going to be, there were NDAs that they had, people sign in those things, but you'll see one in Asia, you're going to see one in Europe, and but that experience visually, of course, it's mind-blowing, because you've got so many condensed pixels, just like fully surrounding you, that you basically have a fully immersive visual experience. But there are, I think they said 20,000 dedicated speakers, and it's isolated sound that projects to each individual seat. So they show this demonstration in the lobby, where there are 4 columns, and you can stand in these columns, and you can be in front of the speakers, and you can hear dialogue in Mandarin. Then you can take a step to your left, and you're going to hear speakers that are pointed directly at those seats, that you hear Italian. Go 2 seats over, and you're going to hear German. And and you don't even hear the other audio. If you're sitting in your one spot, you don't hear the English on the left and the German on the right. It's isolated, that focused. So and then you've got the subs built into the seats, multi-spaced subs. So when the helicopter that U2 has coming over at one point in the show, you can see it coming across the desert, and it comes out over the spot in the sphere, and you feel the subs sequentially going underneath your butt, in the seat, going up your back as the helicopter goes up and over. You hear the sound, you feel it. It was so mind-blowing, and to hear that isolated sound, and they can do that so that, if they have, they're trying to cater to, say, these this big group from China that came over and they're investors and they want to invest in your sphere, they can project the entire show, the dialogue, using AI or whatever that will project only in that language. So you're watching a movie. Yeah.
Even better, maybe you want to go see the visuals for the Fish concert, but you don't want to have to listen to the band.
Right. Yeah.
They can actually dial in like a band that you like.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone else is like noodling.
Oh, yeah.
And you're listening to like, Steely Dan or whatever it is.
The thought that everybody had there, I think, unless you were just die hard, you too, was that thinking, oh my God, this has to be a Pink Floyd show. It has to be, like, can Gilmour and Roger get along enough to be able to bring this entire show together? To see that production would be all right.
Well, when you said that you got a behind the scenes, did they show you behind the actual wall?
No, I have watched videos about that though, that show, because there's a membrane, right? So you've got the outer skin of the sphere, because the exosphere has those pixels. It's got the pucks, if you will, that show the screen on the outside, so you can see all the visual stuff there. And then there is a buffer in between where they have the pucks on the inside, or not the pucks, but the screens, however many thousand, like screens all together. And and I know that that's where those focal speakers are too, so some of them, not the subs.
Yeah, I understand how the speakers get through the video wall.
Yeah, it's unreal, man. I mean, there is a lot of documentation about that online, I know for sure. But what I got to see were the production guys. We went back and before the show, my buddy brought us over and talked to sound guys, sound engineers, and the guys that were controlling the scenes, because that's another thing that's crazy, is they've got everything predetermined for most of what you see visually in that screen, in the sphere. But the stage that's set up, so you've got 4 guys and U2 on stage. The stage itself is a screen, and the sides, the front facade, all the way wrapping around it, are screens that there are guys with cameras pointing at the guys, and they're doing live projection where you're seeing live video of those guys on the screen that they're standing on.
Right.
And so when they're moving around and they're doing their whatever theatric stuff, their choreography, all that stuff is shown live, and some of that's projected onto the big screens too, in sequence with and in accordance with all the stuff that's already pre-programmed. So I thought I was going to go see the show and say, like, why would I want to? I mean, if I'm really into this band, I want to watch the band, right? I don't necessarily want to be distracted by the movie that's going on, but it's all immersive. Like, they're part of the movie that's all going on in the backdrop, which is just mind blowing. And yeah, when they announced other bands that were going to be that I didn't care about, like Fish or even the Dead, I realized, I mean, there's a cult following for all these bands. I get why they would have a ton of these bands. Eagles are there, I think, right now. And Eagles, every song is just a masterpiece, right? I mean, you could just, like, whether you liked the Eagles or not, you can't help but love a bunch of those tunes, but you don't think of them as a visual band. You don't think of like each character, like U2. The visual thing that they've been doing for a long time with each tour has always been part of the show. And, Bono's larger than life, and, Edge is of course, iconic, but I don't think of any of that stuff with, like, the Eagles. I mean, really, like they just they're the
You should have
songs.
seen Lion Eyes, man. It was so psychedelic.
Yeah, well, I mean, but think about Pink Floyd, right? I mean, you like Gilmore's out doing his show right now, and I was looking at, my son wanted to take me to Gilmore to the Hollywood Bowl, and like the cheapest seats were like $2,500 for the nosebleeds, the cheapest seats. But at
Yeah.
the
Well, I mean,
Sphere,
that's the thing is that, I- uh, look, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to see David Gilmour again. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to see Roger Waters again, but they are not spring chickens.
yeah, right,
Um, and the Floydian Slips are not the only, pro level Floyd band out there. And this is, I don't know, this is probably something that you could, have an opinion on. Um, in my research to come up with like, oh, well, how are other people pulling off the live version of, sheep from
mhm,
animals?
yeah,
What is it? And I used Pink Floyd recordings, uh, Australian Pink Floyd, and Brit Floyd as my bar. Like
sure, those are the biggies.
my sounds need to be at least as good as these guys. Um, I think I achieved that.
Nice.
And I think that, I mean, uh, check out Floydian Slips, the video that I uploaded of us doing the Wish You Were Here album in its entirety. There's nobody else that I think has done I mean, maybe you can find something online of somebody doing that entire album. The point to all this is I would put us next to anybody.
Nice.
Um, and it's really about like, yeah, Pink Floyd at the Sphere, Pink Floyd's music at the Sphere. Uh, who is going to be the lucky person to get that opportunity? Because certainly if David Gilmour or Roger Waters, or certainly if they were together, but I mean, I cannot even imagine what kind of like, I mean, would you have to pay with literal diamonds or
Right.
like
Right.
titanium?
Yeah,
Do
you're
you
paying
have
5
to
grand for a
murder
ticket at
to get
least, yeah.
in? There,
Yeah.
that's too, what I think is more likely is that one of these other Pink Floyd bands um, is just going to get a residency,
Yeah.
and they'll just play, Sunday through Tuesday for like 18 years.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's realistically, it's not gonna happen that David and Roger are gonna be getting together anytime soon, but, the experience that you'll have at the Cuthbert is I mean, it's
It
probably
will
like
not be the Sphere.
but you know what? I mean, honestly, people won't be able to see an experience like that anywhere in Oregon, so I applaud you for making that happen. Can't wait to see the results. Yeah, I wish I wasn't gigging in Washington actually, but well, I'm grateful to be gigging, but I'm sad that I have to miss it. It'll be a really cool show, and expect a full report on here and
And
I'm
we're going to
glad.
have great weather. It's going to be very
Um,
nice weather on Saturday. We're a little
nice.
worried, it's like a little worried, like whenever you book an outdoor gig in Oregon,
Yeah,
but the
right.
weather looks great. And yeah, I'm going to be working on it tonight. Getting, I've already got all the sounds together. Now I got to I get to figure out where am I going to throw it around. And I don't think it's ever really been done
Nice.
at the Cuthbert. And so as long as our team does not murder me for making, for having them do all this work, I think it's going to be really, really amazing.
Well, you mentioned Paul earlier, Paul Lazinski, who's been on the show before with his project as well. He seems to be pretty proud of what the sounds are and what the production's been so far with what you're doing. So obviously, you haven't alienated everyone. Please do give Paul and Nicole and Ned and the gang my best. I'm excited for you.
I will. Who you
If
playing with nowadays, man?
I've been with a flock of seagulls for quite a while, man. That's been the main gig, and grateful that um, you know the '80s is still having us back. Just got a new single out, actually a new video, which is really cool. And
Oh, really?
and yeah, yeah, and I am very and I talked about Roland earlier, man. I finally just lined up an artist deal with them, so I'm really excited that been playing Roland stuff forever, but we toured so much the last couple of years that my gear is just taking a beating. We've been on the road nonstop for like after the pandemic. Just I was out 300 days last year, and played over
Wow.
100 shows and a lot of travel and a couple of breaks this year, but still lots and lots and lots of shows and through the end of the year, it's gonna be busy. So I'm grateful that Roland came through, and at least I can replace a bunch of the gear that's just hanging on by a thread. So thank you,
So you're doing
Roland.
all V drums.
No, no, no. I play an acoustic drum set with triggers on it. I've got a Roland. I'm in a Roland SPDSX Pro that I've just so for
Okay.
triggering some pads, and then but yeah, I've got triggers on the acoustic drums. So I'm triggering samples of the original sounds from back in the '80s.
The
So
original Simmons.
yep. Yeah. So there's Simmons and Lynn stuff, both that they used over time. And so the different records, I've got the different samples for each of those songs. And you hear Space Age Love Song, you're going to hear all those samples,
Yeah.
recreated and triggered. And yeah, because I mean, it would be great to have V drums out there to really replicate that sort of sound and electronic vibe. But I love that our singer really wants to hear the actual drive of an acoustic drum kit. So it's a hybrid, 50-50 split between acoustic and electronic sounds. And
So you can still hear like a drum, like your actual sound though, right?
yeah, yeah,
And the other sounds are just added to it,
yep,
or
yeah, it's stacked right on top. So it's like half, so yeah, if I was hitting the drum, I could actually just turn down the levels of my trigger and turn them up, and but out front of house PA guy, he's just mixing it so that you hear a perfect blend of the acoustic and electronic sounds. And um, because the samples are different for every song, some of it's more articulated and more present than others. Some of the stuff is real ambient and cinematic and big and it's nice to have those samples be real strong in the mix. But yeah, it's fun. You should come out to
right?
see a show sometime. I mean, I would imagine some of the people that are watching this right now have been out to these shows, and we've been doing a handful of new music for a while, and our singer has been doing. Um, I'm really impressed. I mean, Mike Score, the original singer and writer for the band, he brings a sound from the '80s forth, so that it sounds like a flock of seagulls. You hear the new single, and it sounds like, oh yeah, it's very reminiscent of the old stuff, but there is a modern vibe. And uh, I watch, Facebook groups of fans of the original Flock of Seagulls, and sometimes they get pissy because it's not all the original members. And like you said, I mean, you talked about Pink Floyd not being spring chickens for whatever reason. Like not every band is like the Rolling Stones. I mean, you don't have like all original, mostly
Yeah,
original members, and hardly anybody anymore. But I'm just grateful to pay homage to those original tunes. And
yeah.
I love the fact that because of the way the media is licensed, our singers had, a lot of stuff in video games like Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, and a lot of movies soundtracks. So you'll get
Right.
kids bringing their PlayStation boxes out to get signed with, like
What?
folks our age, yeah, and people older. It's sweet. So yeah, and the new Grand Theft Auto Vice City that's coming out, the new Grand Theft Auto is featuring a flock of seagulls again. The one 20 years
Really?
later, he's gonna have a new generation of people coming. So yeah. Sorry, I
Well,
didn't mean to make that about my band, but it's been fantastic, man.
no, yeah, man. Well, on if you look up Solovox, that's my one man thing. If you look up Solovox on Spotify, um, there's a couple of albums there for my soundtrack to Marble It Up. It's a video game that's on Apple Arcade and Steam, and kind of like with the Floydian Slips, I may have overdone it. I
Yeah.
may I may have over delivered.
Oh, that's fantastic. What Marble It Up is
the best music I've ever made
well,
for a marble game.
I love that. I'll definitely be grabbing that for sure. I did find your stuff.
It's called the Conqueror. Crank that in your car and
The
try to
Conqueror?
commit crime.
Okay, that's I think that might is that this one right here? Let's see.
Yeah.
There he is. Hey, I'm just gonna get a copyright strike on that for playing that here on YouTube. So yeah, I'll definitely be grabbing that. And so we mentioned Solovox. I've got the link down here below. If you go to youtube.com/@CarlSolovox, Carl's got a great assemblage of his stuff, his solo stuff, and then some of the other ensemble stuff that you've got as well. So, yeah, definitely go out there and subscribe to this, folks. And if you got here late, you missed a really cool live performance. Carl was kind of showing off this expression keyboard that he's got. Make sure you go back and you dig into this. Carl, that's beautiful, man. It really does have like a string sound to it. I mean, you've got violins, violas, and
Well, yeah. I mean, it can do a lot of different things, but the the engine that they put into it, I've been programming synth for decades and decades. I can't make any sense out of it, but it's very good at replicating, guitar sounds, strings, flutes, but that's what's great is that with all the other new software that's coming out, you can just kind of do anything. I am, here's sitar.
that's great, man. I love it.
It's a whole new world.
That's beautiful. Probably aren't going to hear all of those examples at the show coming up at the Cuthbert Theater, but I'm going to put the notes again here, just really quick, guys. If you got here late, make sure that you go check out Cuthbert Amphitheater. Go to thecuthbert.com. You can get tickets for the show this Saturday on the 21st. Again, show's at 7:00. Go see Floydian Slips, and you'll get to see Carl doing his thing, performing in quadrophonic sound. I can't wait to get a recap, buddy. So if I can find any footage out there, this will be archived at accesskevin.com. I'll make sure that I nest a little bit of that video down there too, so that people that miss out can have their FOMO replaced with a little recap.
Yeah, and just real quick, if you do go on YouTube, look up Floydian Slips. You can see our full performance of Echoes, which I put up recently, and our full album performance of Wish You Were Here. There's a full 8-camera shoot that I edited. I also did a full 32 audio track mix down. Very, very proud of it. So check out Floydian Slips on YouTube.
Excellent. I'll make sure I put a link to that. So, guys, if you came late and you want to check that part out, go to accesskevin.com. I will have Solovox there with embedded Floydian Slips footage from his Echoes and Wish You Were Here record performances. I want to thank 5 Star Guitars, too, for sponsoring the show and helping us out here. If you came, again, anywhere other than YouTube, please subscribe to my channel as well, youtube.com/@accesskevin. Share this one, like it, and if you are so inclined, please become members. Solovox, Carl, man,
still sleeping. His knees tucked up to his chest under the blanket.
I'm hearing some audio, interesting audio there.
Priya stood in the frame of the front door. He's fine, Luke.
You have some audio there from the front door. I'm hearing it's some strange interruptions, but maybe that's the feds sneaking into our transmission. Looks like we just lost Carl for a second. That was pretty funny. I bet his Ring doorbell was ringing through his phone. Folks, again, if you got here late and didn't catch it, man, go through. This is a really fun conversation. Solovox, badass keyboardist and pretty visionary. performer. So check him out. Come here next week. I've got a really incredible human being, Kelly Kopp, who I've known as tour manager representing Nickelback and Wang Chung and a bunch of bands from shows that we've toured together. Had a near-death experience and completely changed his life. He's actually been out on the evangelist circuit. So he just has 2 best-selling books right now on the charts. And he's got another one coming up. Whether you are sort of focused on religion or not, I don't typically have anything religious focused, but his story is magical. He's a pretty remarkable human being. And so if you come back here this time next week, Tuesday, September 24th, you'll get a chance to see somebody that he's like no other. This guy will change your life in about 5 minutes just by being around him. So come back and check it out at accesskevin.com. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you are well. Have a beautiful day and be good humans. Talk to you soon.